All right. So, um, big communication, as a lot of your senior folks here in the class. So you probably, it's not saying something new, but setting stakeholder expectations, communicating well, and as Paul was saying, over communicating of the nuances and putting effort into communicating. Like I'm sure Vishnu, you're having a nightmare of a time trying to figure out how to communicate across 50 brands in a way that is consistent. That's incredibly challenging, no question about that. But unfortunately, that is a big part of the job for all of us in the class. If all of us analytics practitioners, a lot of our success depends on our ability to communicate this complexity and the strategy we are taking and how it's being informed by data and the uncertainty around the decisions we're making and how we are removing uncertainty by testing. That is a big part of the job. Most CMOs would say that at least half their job is just simply communication, not even doing anything, right? Again, there is I think once in the last class, I want to say there is a pre-read or a post-read on communicating marketing's contribution. I have three CMOs. One is Dave Lokes, one is Cindy Starr, and Kerry Phillips. They're all fantastic CMOs. They all came to class talking about how to communicate marketing's contribution to business, and they all have slightly different frameworks for it, and they all talk through it. I would highly encourage you guys go catch that. But they're all saying the same things, which is figuring out how to explain this to other peers in your executive team or in your leadership team or to boards is a big part of determining success. If you can do that well, you will earn their trust, you will earn their buy-in, and you can execute on this data-driven decision-making approach that you're putting in place. But it's pretty complex, right? So it's not a simple thing to do. Okay, that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. And then I want to leave you with one thing here, okay? Now, how do you make decisions when you're uncertain? And in fact, Ali is going to talk about that in a second. But when you're uncertain, like for example, in the use case that I was just talking about here, let's say, for example, let's take this example, for example, okay? Search, right? You're pretty sure you need to cut budgets, but you don't have time to do the testing yet, and you don't want to be bleeding dollars while you see that, oh, wait, I'm at 2.3 and I'm spending half my budgets on search. I really need to be 3. I need to be cutting budgets, but there is some uncertainty here. What do I do? What you can do is you can walk towards the optimal decision. You can start looking at your search portfolio, looking at the worst possible keywords, start trimming budgets on the worst possible keywords, shading down the bids. All of those things you can do to kind of walk towards the optimal, as opposed to having to cut 30% on day one. If you say, well, I need to cut budgets by 30%, you don't have to cut 30% on day one. You can cut 3% on day one and walk towards the optimal and observe how the last click numbers are responding. And maybe the next time you run an incrementality test, how it's responding. So you can take halfway house decisions if you don't have perfect certainty, or you never have perfect certainty, but you can calibrate the decisions to your certainty, okay? The more confidence you have, the bigger steps you can take. Less confidence you have, smaller steps you take. And that's kind of, a simple way to think about decision making under uncertainty, okay? And Alice has a nice framework she's going to walk you through how to kind of walk towards and observe the advanced attribution metrics and the base attribution metrics together to hold on to something as you're walking down that curve, okay? Okay, with this, yes, Sanjita, go for it.